Before we start this episode, hey, big news for you. This is for real. The Cracked Podcast is going on tour. We're doing live shows in Chicago and in St. Paul, Minnesota this coming April. That will be Lincoln Hall, Chicago, April 11th, and Amsterdam Bar and Hall, St. Paul, Minnesota, April 12th. That's a Thursday show and then a Friday show. I'm hoping you can fit us into your spring because this is unprecedented that we get to bring the show to the Midwest, and I am really, really excited about what we'll be able to do and put on as we do it. I think it's going to be amazing. Tickets are on sale now, and they're linked in our footnotes if you want to find either venue or both venues. If you're very bold, I would really appreciate it. It's different shows each place, so you would enjoy that, just to tell you. Either way, thank you so much for supporting our pod, and hopefully we'll see you out on the road. Hey there, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Cracked Podcast, the podcast all about why being alive is more interesting than people think it is. My name is Alex Schmidt, and I'm the head of podcasting here at Cracked. I'm also known as Schmitty the Clam. I'm also known as Schmitty the Champ, and I am also thinking America could head into the new year with some new ideas, right? Both those phrases have the word new in them. Seems like a slam dunk. And by new ideas, I mean old ideas that we just haven't noticed yet. Because that's our topic this week. It is great ideas America should steal from other countries. And the best part is it's like a harmless crime. We're not actually taking anything, right? We're just noticing a thing and implementing it. I think steal is just more of a fun word for it. We're going to talk about a bunch of ideas today that are simple, straightforward, and already up and running in the societies of other countries. And why don't we just bring them over to America? Isn't that a fun idea? And I'm digging into that fun idea with two fantastic guests. One is Nick Wiger, who is an amazing writer, amazing comedian, and podcaster from his show Doughboys, co-hosted with Mike Mitchell. That is a show about eating places and being analytical about it in such a fun and deep diving way. I love the way they deal with everything from my favorite fried chicken place in LA to the Times Square Guy Fieri restaurant. They do everything. He's all about making things as optimal as they can possibly be. And I think that's perfect for this, where we're trying to figure out how America can just run a little better with a little borrowing. And my other guest is a returning guest to this show, your pal and mine, one of my favorite people, just like full stop. There you go. It is Adam Tod Brown. He hosts Unpopular Opinion, runs that whole podcast network, and also does a show there called What in the World, where he and his co-host Quincy Johnson look at just international news you probably didn't even know about. So he really has his finger on the pulse of everything that is happening outside of the United States that we in particular miss because of the orange guy. You know, he's very distracting. These guys are so funny and so perfect for this thing that we're going to get into. I'm very glad they came globetrotting with me, and it's time you heard it. So please sit back or sit in your home in Taiwan waiting to hear pleasant classical music come from your local garbage truck. I know that sounds random. We will obviously explain it. Either way, please enjoy this episode of the Cracked Podcast with Adam Tod Brown and Nick Wiger. I'll be back after we wrap up. Talk to you then. And we have a lot of different ideas here that we can look at it. Like, hey, why don't we implement it? And one of them is, with all the U.S. states being the same, in 46 U.S. states, if you win the lottery, your name has to be publicly released. So
has to be.
Yeah,
it's
if
mandated.
You win the lottery, the news has to, I guess, report, or the government has to report that you won the lottery, this is your name.
Wow.
And so then in basically every lottery, whoever wins gets hounded by friends or strangers right away.
I actually wouldn't mind that because I'm going to be a ghost if I ever win the lottery. Like you can know it was me all you want, but I have enough money for you to never find me.
Right.
Unless it's like Russia coming after me or something. But other than that, you know my name.
I think if I win the lottery, I'll end up as like a literal ghost because something will befell me, whether it's someone trying to murder me to get to my millions or whether it's just some sort of accident that I suffer as a result of this monkey paw wish being fulfilled. I think I will die horribly very shortly after I win this prize.
You think it'll be like cosmic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you know you've won, can't you set up a trust and then pass the ticket on to that trust, and then the trust claims the ticket in your name.
That sounds very advanced. I would imagine maybe there are places you can do that and nobody thinks of it in the heat of the win, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if I just won the lottery, I'm not super good at thinking about finances, ironically.
Right.
I'm just freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ticket was claimed by Vandalay Industries. What is that? You've heard of that.
And so just about every state's that way. Meanwhile, in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, winners have the option of announcing their win or not. And this is from, it's a Cracked article called 5 Laws from Other Countries the USA Should Totally Steal, which is by a lot of authors, E. Reed Ross, Jordan Breeding, James Freeth, Sohaib Aslam, and V.R. Kraft. All 5 of them working together.
Wow.
Wow.
And they dug up that, all these other places you don't have to have your name announced. And then we'll link to it. In China, they have that option, and there's sort of just a tradition that's sprung up where you do have to go and claim it in person, and so people will go in crazy costumes. They'll be in like a full horse mask,
right?
Or one of them was Baymax from Big Hero 6.
That's fun.
Yeah, so people are making a point of anonymously, personally claiming their lottery winnings in hilarious costumes, and then the press takes a bunch of pictures of like
That's pretty great.
Iron Man winning the lottery.
Right.
It's great. Yeah.
I'd be fine if that was the law here. You have to wear a costume if you're anonymous.
Yeah, that'd be fun just to see. Someone shows up in like a Sonic the Hedgehog mascot suit and picks up a giant check and then dabs. I mean, that's fun. We get a lot of that. It seems like there's a strong case for making that anonymous, just for what you were saying, just like avoiding the life ruination that tends to come with the lottery curse.
Yeah.
But I think also too, it's like, how much of people will just reveal themselves because all of a sudden they're posting an Instagram of their gold Bentley. And it's just like, wait, what happened to the Hyundai? Where did this come from? And then people start to piece together who hit the mega millions.
I think that would almost be the fun part about it. If you could be anonymous, then maybe I would just hang around and just act super rich.
Right.
But when people ask, like, no, I've been saving, man. I saved 9 months to buy this mink coat that I'm wearing.
I stopped getting that Americano every day.
Yeah.
I listen to all the advice you'll get from the condescending Business Week articles telling millennials how they could save money.
I took a Kevin O'Leary course. Yeah. It's a Shark Tank reference.
Oh. Mr. Wonderful.
Yes.
Nearly a nominee for the Conservative Party, like prime ministership in Canada, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. They were worried he was going to be Canada's Trump at one point.
Since we're talking about Canada, there's a thing they've done that we could easily do because both countries have pennies. And Canada apparently tried to do a thing where they tried to get back on the gold standard, which is very turn of the century of them. That's a real throwback.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't work. It was really hard. But in the aftermath of it, they kept a new thing they had done where they just stopped minting pennies in 2012. They were like, we're not going to make any more of them. And since then, they have saved $11 million.
Wow.
In costs of minting pennies. It's great.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, $11 million is probably like a pittance next to the U.S. military budget or whatever. That's like how much it costs for like one non-functional torpedo. But I do think that, we should stop making pennies. Like, who fucking cares? Just move the decimal point in our money where like a dime is now a penny. And then like we just recenter everything because you didn't have a 1/10 of a cent coin in 1960. You know what I mean? Like the penny has remained fixed as the smallest amount of money, but then inflation has caused that to be worth less.
Yeah. That would be a good idea.
Because I remember reading that isn't it zinc or there's some mineral in a penny that comes from a constituency that's powerful. Like there's something like zinc miners have a vested interest in making sure pennies continue to be minted because like that's their whole like source of income. I don't know if it's specifically zinc.
That. Yeah, that makes the most sense for why we would hold on to still doing pennies in this country. Someone has to be getting rich off the penny hustle.
Yeah, I feel bad for any kind of miner where there's no cultural thing around it. Like coal, people know what you are. They're all about it. A zinc miner, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, what's your identity?
Cool. Yeah.
There's still asbestos miners out there?
Wow.
Oh boy.
Just like a make work program, just like go out there and get asbestos.
Well, actually speaking of Canada still exports asbestos to whatever country will still have it.
And we think they're so nice, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Look at that.
They're just trying to get it out of Canada. They're just trying to de-asbestos the whole country.
And also they have estimated that based on if Canada saved 11 million, they're much smaller than we are, right?
Right.
The U.S. would probably save about 46.
Okay.
If we did that. But like you say, Nick, it's also, 2 torpedoes or something compared to the military budget.
We could also make Trump pay his taxes, and we'd get like 10 times that in revenue. That would be cool.
With this scale of fix, I feel like a lot of what we're looking at today is stuff that's a good idea, but also it's not like a front burner thing in anybody's mind because it doesn't fix the whole world or something.
Yeah.
Are we like missing a way to do small things? I feel like we're only fixated on enormous fixes to enormous problems.
What if we make it an enormous fix and not just stop minting pennies, but also confiscate all pennies on the streets? Like a test run for guns, maybe? Like maybe we're going to have to confiscate guns at some point.
Yeah.
So we go into the community with forces. That's going to create jobs. And then you just go door to door taking pennies by force. And then we're ready for the gun problem next.
Right. Or gas cars, which will probably have to be seized at some point.
Right.
I don't think anyone would be suspicious of some sort of government roundup force. I think if you deployed shock troops to the suburbs to go door to door to take things from people, I think they'd take it in stride.
This is America.
Right.
We're an understanding nation.
Looking at money, and also very excited to have Nick from the show Doughboys, the definitive show about fast foods.
Oh, God bless you for saying that.
It's great. And we can look at the country of Denmark here, which we have a lot to say about. But they allowed fast food workers to unionize, which is something that, like, I had never really thought about, that fast food workers here just can't. Like, they just aren't allowed to form a union and bargain with McDonald's and every other restaurant. And since they formed or joined a union in Denmark called 3F, they were able to negotiate a $20 an hour minimum wage. And that was in 2014 when the average U.S. fast food worker got $8.90 an hour. They just set it up not through any like government minimum wage or anything. They just bargained it. And what a good idea. We could just set that up.
Yeah, I mean, organizing labor, it improves conditions for the workers. I mean, there's no real ethical way to consume fast food, which I love, unfortunately, because all these companies are monstrous. They are all evil companies run by evil men. And, you know, by spending your money at one of these businesses, you're complicit in all the abuses that go all the way down the supply chain, from, you know, the horrors that are inflicted upon the environment from commercial fishing to the animal welfare abuses and the labor issues within the agricultural sector and all the factory farming that's going on, to, you know, the treatment of workers within the food service industry itself. I mean, there's no way to spend your money at one of these places ethically, unfortunately. So for that reason, it's definitely in the interest of these workers to unionize. It's 100% in their interest to, like, you know, band together and have the ability to collectively bargain to be paid fairly. Because if you live in America, you have to eat at restaurants and you have to get food to go. It's almost impossible to live as someone who's working, you know, as someone who has a job. It's almost impossible to just prepare your own food. You have to get prepared food at some point to just sustain yourself. And so you're reliant on these people. These food service workers are a key part of the economy. They deserve to be treated with respect and compensated fairly.
Yeah.
It's not even that, oh, Denmark allows this and we don't. We allow it.
Right.
Like, there probably is a fast food workers union. It's just a matter of each individual franchise owner letting their workers do it. Or, like, I imagine there's I imagine the reaction to that would be, our workers want to unionize. I imagine McDonald's probably sends people there to talk them out of it at that point.
Yeah.
In some way.
It's, you know, it's a very difficult sector to unionize because it's just the workers are viewed as so disposable by management. So if anyone is going to create, it's the same thing you run into at big box stores, Walmart most famously, where just like anyone who's going to try to organize is going to be shown the door very quickly.
That disposability of workers like that, I think it's the same thing that lends itself to all of the sexual harassment that is so pervasive in fast food. And those are all things that could be addressed if we would just let people unionize, and we don't.
Yeah, because Adam, you've podcasted about especially at McDonald's, just an entire harassment scandal that's been unfolding.
There was a nationwide strike. I mean, it was only 10 cities, but it was McDonald's workers during the lunch rush walked out of their stores in 10 different cities to protest this climate of sexual abuse and harassment at McDonald's. And it got, I mean, for obvious reasons. There's McDonald's spread so much advertising money around. People are going to be hesitant to jump on that as the huge story that it was. It was the first strike in the Me Too era that was directed at one corporation. That's such a huge story.
Right.
And if you bring it up to most people, they're like, I've never heard of this in my life. And that's what those workers are facing.
Yeah, I have a whole podcast about chain restaurants, and I'm only vaguely recalling this as you're saying that. I remember, I was like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten that was a thing.
In general, no one really cared or paid attention to it. And that's insane. That's what's interesting about McDonald's. They're the head of everything when it comes to fast food. And they're usually on the forefront of changing things.
Like they're the cutting edge of everything going on.
Yeah, when people were like, hey, stop crushing up animal bones and putting them in our meat, McDonald's was the first one to be like, fine.
Right.
Start using real meat, you prudes.
Yeah, the switch from beef tallow to vegetable oil for deep frying. That was a McDonald's thing that they pioneered, for better or worse.
Styrofoam cups. They were the first one to be like, all right, we'll stop using styrofoam if it's bad. So if McDonald's would just be like, all right, yeah, we're going to step in and fix the sexual harassment thing, all the other fast food places that it's happening at would probably follow suit. So it's the kind of thing that it's really unfortunate that it didn't get more press than it did.
McDonald's also the first to have a mayor associated with the brand, Mayor McCheese. As you know, a lot of other chains followed suit after that.
Well, you get that big, you want to get into politics.
Yeah. Mayor McCheese really should do something about this ongoing scandal at McDonald's. I mean, his regime, I feel like, is hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
When you said McDonald's is cutting edge, the first thing I thought of was, they were the first place I saw those kiosk thingies to order my food.
It's like a big public smartphone screen,
right?
Which is the nastiest surface on planet Earth.
Yeah, that's true. It's also just such a clear, surrogate for the worker. It's such like we are trying to replace you one step at a time. We are trying to remove as many reasons we have to have human labor here as possible. It's kind of ominous in that regard. I did go to a McDonald's when they had installed the touch screens. This was up in Reseda, California. Yeah. And it was so clearly an inefficiency because people were struggling with the touch screen so much that they had to have two workers standing next to the touch screens helping people with them. And it was just there was an elderly guy in front of me and if he could just tell you what he wants and you were behind the register, this would be a more efficient transaction. But because you want to eliminate a worker so you can save a little bit of, a fraction of a percent of your labor costs, you're installing this big electronic abomination that you're forcing people to learn how to use. And then now you have to have a worker go to help someone through it anyway.
What a shitty day at work, too.
I know, right?
How was it? Oh, well, I helped people learn to not use me anymore.
I taught
That's what I did.
I taught the elderly to use iPads all day.
Yeah. It's a robot version of me. I help people get used to it. Anyway.
I trained my replacement.
Oh, boy. In the case of a place like Denmark, as they were doing their fast food union negotiation, they didn't need to touch the idea of healthcare, really, because that country has universal healthcare.
Right.
Yeah.
And that also meant everybody could get that wage, whether they were part-time or full-time, because they weren't doing a thing that happens here a lot, where they'll work people 39 hours a week so they don't get healthcare. It's just not an issue. They could just work it out and be done. Denmark
and places like that, they get a lot of things right, but especially in the case of Denmark, it's always you'll see a Facebook video where people are like, here's what Denmark does with healthcare. Why can't the United States be more like Denmark? Denmark is a right-wing nightmare, and that government deserves to burn.
Oh, boy.
They are, right now, one of the things they're doing, and this is kind of similar to the United States, or at least we'll get there. They are any unwanted migrants who come to Denmark. Basically, if you're seeking asylum and you have an arrest on your record or something and you can't be sent back home, They're sending people to an island that is currently used to do research on contagious animal diseases.
Jesus Christ.
And there is a crematorium on the island, so that's comforting. And the ferry that they're using to shuttle people back and forth to the island is called the Virus. And all of this is a part of their stated government program or government policy to discourage immigration by making the lives of immigrants as difficult as possible.
Yeah,
like there's a quote from their immigration minister. She literally says they are not wanted here and they will feel that. So they get health care right, but they...
Yeah, and that's... I feel like that's also an example of like how many different ways a country can be all at once.
Yeah,
you know? Like
right.
Before we were doing this right now, I was having lunch with a friend that mentioned what we were going to talk about. And my friend was like, oh, so you're just going to talk about like Scandinavian countries, right? Like that's going to be the whole thing. And I said, well, we'll talk about some, but also like there are countries like this where they are really good at some things and really bad at others. One thing I remember learning and being surprised by is I feel like occasionally I'll hear older people kind of say a trope of like, everything's made in China and or Taiwan and or other places, never made in the U.S. And then I learned that like a lot of U.S. manufacturing is now giant stuff. Like we'll make a passenger jet, but you don't notice the like made in the USA tag on it because it's a passenger jet. You know? Right.
They could make the tag so much bigger though.
That would go a long way. I think that would restore national pride.
Yeah.
You went to the airport and every Delta plane had a made in the USA sticker on it.
Well, since I mentioned Taiwan, there's a fascinating thing in Taiwan where they have a completely different garbage pickup system than we do. And I think that's very exciting. Like, I assume garbage pickup has pretty much been the same for, I don't know, 500 years in the U.S., 1,000. It's just a truck comes by and gets it. That's it.
500 to 1,000 years?
Yeah, I'm going to go with those numbers. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Starting to question your knowledge of history and world events. But please continue.
There were garbage trucks depicted in hieroglyphics, if I recall correctly. What do they do with their garbage?
The system it's not just an advancing cost, but it's a free system except for bags. And so how it works is you have to buy trash bags from the government, and then the trucks will only take those government bags. But every other part of the system is free, and that's just how they manage costs. So you pay less if you have less trash. And
interesting.
So people, like, compost and recycle and things like that. People also bring their trash to the truck, and the truck plays nice classical music when it's coming, like an ice cream truck.
That's fun.
So you hear...
I like all of that.
Yeah, that's great.
They play Für Elise by Beethoven. And then you hear that coming on the street, and you're like, "Oh, it's trash time!" And you bring it out. And
so
then,
if you gather trash in Taiwan, you have to listen to Für Elise by Beethoven every day, all day.
Yeah, this is mostly drawn on it's a podcast called 99% Invisible that did a whole episode about this. But it's either Für Elise or a song called A Maiden's Prayer by Tekla Barajewska-Baranowska, which I don't really know. But one of those two pretty classical songs, if you hear that coming, you run out and dump your trash in there. Recycling is free as long as you just sort it. And apparently it started in the 1980s because Taiwan had a growing trash problem. Because it's a small island, a lot of people, a lot of trouble from mainland China. And so they were like, we need to ramp up our trash collection into something nice. Otherwise, our island is going to be all messy. You gotta do it.
And it's a way, like you were saying, it's a way to control costs by more directly making the individual feel how much they're spending on their own trash collection. Yeah, because that, to me, I do not at all feel the cost of the garbage collection. It's just a thing that happens.
Right.
It is 100% a thing I take for granted. I have no idea where the money comes from. I just know that it happens, and I put stuff in the dumpster in the alley behind our apartment, and it gets picked up once or twice a week. That's it for me.
Yeah, it's essentially magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've had to pay for garbage collection before, and it's like it feels not right.
What was the process for that? Like, was it via homeowners tasks or something, or what was it?
Well, yeah, I lived in South Dakota at the time and lived in a house that I co-owned.
Okay.
And so you had to just figure out your own garbage service. So I had to like weigh my options, and there's like little mom and pop type things. That's what I ended up going with. Just a dude who has like a regular sized truck that he outfitted to fit enough garbage in the back. And I ended up going with someone like that, and it was like $12 a month.
So it's like semi-privatized. It's like you're picking your auto insurance.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was like that in parts of the country.
I'm imagining like a Mr. Plow type situation.
Right.
Too. Like it's just a guy who's like, I'm the trash now. I do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely that. And he was great. He would pull all the way up, and I had a long driveway. He would pull all the way up and just grab the stuff instead of me having to put it out on the street.
That's awesome.
We're gonna at some point, that system is just going to turn nationwide, and it's going to be like app based. It's going to be like Uber, and then that'll be like everyone's side hustle. Like I'll be doing that. I'll like have my podcast, and then I'll also be driving an SUV around picking up people's trash for like $11 a month.
Well, because also like I feel like there's certain costs like trash, electricity, where especially if I was unemployed or if I had a lot of time, like I would super take the opportunity to get the cost of that down.
Right.
You know, and in Taiwan, they have the opportunity where it's like, hey, if I have time, I'll do the equivalent of like clipping coupons by having much less trash or building a compost thing or something.
Finding a way to make it where it's by volume, like you're paying for the amount of trash you're producing by volume, I think is very, very smart.
Yeah.
Like it seems like a smart policy if there's an efficient way to do it. That would 100% disincentivize me from wasting so much. Like I feel like I definitely would reuse containers. I would not use as many paper towels. I would definitely be conscious of how much waste I was producing, even if it was just to save like $4 a month, because I'd be like, well, fuck, I don't want to spend another $4 to put another trash bag at the corner.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you'd feel it. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's actually part of it when you pay for your own garbage. At least the way it worked when I did it, they sent you one of those big plastic bins like so many people in LA have. They send you one.
Right.
And if you have more garbage than will fit in that, then they charge you extra.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a cap. It's a physical cap on it. That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
There's also, it was one specific episode of Mad Men, and it felt like they were doing like a joke all of a sudden because they were having like a family picnic. And then Don, it's like, okay, time to leave the picnic. And Don just picks up the blanket and heaves and throws all of their trash into like the field they were in. And like he finishes his beer can and throws it like a quarterback just as far as he can.
Right.
And it's sort of like the actual joke in Anchorman where they're just littering. But I feel like we've come a long way in terms of how we think about trash, and we can go further. We can do it.
It is like, and you know, because I was born in 1980, and I remember in my youth there was just more litter around. There was just more trash, and there was also more anti-litter advocacy. You'd see, just like there was more like public awareness of like stop littering, because I think that was just there was like a 20 to 30 year period where the basically paralleling with drunk driving too. They were just like making people aware of like, hey, this is a thing that people do that you should not do. And so yeah, I think it did make people more conscious of it. And wasn't Don't Mess with Texas, wasn't that originally an anti-littering campaign?
Yeah.
It seems like just such a thing of bravado of like, hey man, don't mess with Texas. It was originally like more of a lighter, like, hey, don't mess with Texas, you know?
Yeah.
Here's something that's kind of a flip of this in terms of it being like something you can manage and work down. In Finland, and this is from an article, 5 Laws Foreign Countries Got Right That We Need in America by Pauli Puisuo. In the country of Finland, they have speeding tickets based on your income. And so there have been times when a very rich person, one case here was going 45 and a 30, and they were a Nokia executive, like the number 2 person at Nokia. So they paid $103,000.
Wow.
US.
I love it.
Yeah, that's so fair.
Implement it yesterday. That's great. Tie it to income or tie it to the value of the car you're driving. Either way, that sounds dynamite.
Yeah.
And people hear that and think, oh, well, that's so much money. But if you're poor, $400 is a lot of money.
Right.
Like that could be the difference between whether you pay rent.
And maybe
not.
you're speeding to your fast food job where you have to endure sexual harassment, but you have to work it because you have a family to take care of. You know what I mean? It's like there was some sort of reason that, and now you're getting all these just gut punches of life where they're just adding up. And meanwhile, you know, some fucking billionaire's son is cruising in his Maserati doing, you know, 100 miles per hour on the 405, and he doesn't bat an eye for this fucking ticket. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. I love it. I love that so much. Do it for parking tickets too.
And they're really applying it to everyone. One of the people that this says it was applied to is hockey great Teemu Selanne of the Anaheim Ducks.
Wow.
He paid $39,000 for a speeding ticket.
Suck it, Selanne.
Yeah. But like, I could see a Finnish police officer being like, "Man, Teemu Selanne's so cool. He's the best Finnish hockey player ever."
Right.
I can't do that. But they did it. They just got him.
That's great. I love it.
It's one of those things that can turn into corruption too. The disparity between what paying a set fine is for a rich person compared to a poor person. There have been towns, I don't remember what city it was in the Midwest, but the police force there was basically accused of using fines and impoundment to steal cars from people.
Wow.
And resell them. Like they would write someone a ticket knowing that person probably wasn't going to be able to pay that ticket and that they'd eventually be able to impound that car. When you're able to break someone financially just in the course of doing your job, there's a lot of room to be corrupt while you're doing that. And I think that happens a lot here. It should be a sliding scale of some sort when it comes to fines and penalties.
Progressive fines for traffic offenses. I love it. That should be a ballot initiative. Let's fucking vote on that.
Yeah.
Let's implement that. Why not?
We've got a thing, and it is another Scandinavian thing, but in Sweden, they did a thing where they had one traffic camera they tested this with that, or the camera-based thing where it sees your speeding and sends you a ticket electronically. They had the camera just also bother to check who was under the speed limit and record that too. And then they created a lottery where random people who were under the speed limit got to win the fine money of the people who were speeding.
Oh, wow.
So there was a reward for not speeding.
When they won this lottery, did they have to show up in disguise in a mascot suit of some kind?
Just a series of Batmans collecting their like $30 checks. Yeah.
I like that positive reinforcement for good behavior. Why not?
Yeah. And they found at this one spot, it dropped people's average speeds from 32 kilometers per hour to 25, which is noticeable.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually a better road. Yeah.
And then you're going to burn less gas. That's going to save money because you're driving slower.
We also, this is, since we were talking about the police before, I feel like, especially in the U.S., we only deal with the police in bad situations. Like, they're either helping us with something that happened to us, or they're cracking down on us for something. In Cuba, they have a thing where government vehicles, including police cars, are required to help hitchhikers. So anytime if they see a hitchhiker around and they're not urgently in the middle of something, they have to pick them up and take them to the next spot. It's a product of when the USSR collapsed and then they didn't have oil from Russia, so they had less vehicles and stuff. But there's a huge hitchhiking culture in Cuba, and then the police like just get random people around as a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I worry in the U.S. that's going to lead to people being detained under the pretense of like, I thought he was hitchhiking. You know, like, I don't know, just what we know of the police here. And
yeah.
I could see that being another avenue for some sort of abuse. I guess just like when I see friendly encounters with police in the U.S., so much of it involves trickery. So much of it involves like, well, look at this video. We pulled someone over and they thought they were getting arrested. And then we gave them an ice cream cone. And I'm just like, you just scared the shit out of somebody. Why would you do that? That's not a nice thing to do.
They're
That's
probably
like,
late for work now.
Exactly. And this is just a way for you to show your dominance over somebody and then release like, ha, we made you tense, but then we released that tension. But we can do this to you. So, you know. And
this is from people wearing body cams. Like, you could just be nice in the course of your day and turn your body cam on and be like, huh? See how I didn't shoot this person?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be something for social media.
Yeah.
If it improves civilian police relations in Cuba, if it's shown to do that, then yeah, maybe it's worth a shot. I don't know.
Well, we'll link this article about it. It describes also a situation where they need less public transit and buses because people will just hop a ride in, and not just police cars, like random government trucks or whatever too. And I could also imagine it cutting down on Uber and Lyft's grip on stuff. Because you could just like catch a cop car down the way for that couple-minute ride.
Right.
In a perfect world. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, is that a situation where you stick your thumb out and a cop car pulls over and now you're sharing a back seat with a frothing meth head in cuffs? Just a hellish ride as you're trying to get to Target.
Oh, that's not good?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, that kind of ties into what's happening in France now with the gas hikes. I feel like in this country, we sort of underestimate what it's like trying to get to work for some people in the world. Like, here, I know, like, I've known people who would live like an hour away from their job and they commute, but in places like France and in Cuba also, like, you might be living on the side of a mountain and need to get into work that day, and just getting to a bus is going to be impossible. So you have to have a car,
right,
or something beyond public transportation. When unrest breaks out, a lot of times it is over transportation costs.
Right.
A lot of what happened in Venezuela before this administration, the regime we want to put back in power, which also destroyed Venezuela, but they were beholden to our business interests. One of the things that undid them was rising transportation costs that led to this gigantic riot where people were coming down from these mountain communities, and then people who lived in cities were like, yeah, they have a point. It should be a little cheaper for them to get down here and work. And it just turned into this massive unrest that kind of led to Chavez getting elected a few years later. Whatever you can do to get transportation costs down for people in smaller countries is always a good idea.
Such as Cuba and even parts of here. Yeah, like,
right.
I even, there will be, before I was saying that all the states are the same, but when I'm here and I see like bottle distributors, it's usually an enormous Coca-Cola truck or beer company truck. And then in parts of Iowa I've been in, they will just hire people to use their own personal car to drop off the few bottles they need dropped off at the few rural places.
Oh, nice.
Because it's just, the scale is so much different, and there aren't that many trucks around. Like, they just work it out that way. There's lots of little things we could do like that.
Yeah.
Just a fun idea.
Yeah. There's more than enough soda distribution to go around.
Yeah.
Let some people do it on their own.
Let's look at Estonia. What a fun country. It's in the Baltic.
I am part Estonian.
Oh, wow.
My great-grandparents, Mort and Nick Wiger, immigrated here in the early 20th century from Estonia.
I was going to ask if Wiger is Estonian.
It is. It's an Estonian name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know a ton about it other than that they have set up national Wi-Fi in Estonia. There are hotspots everywhere, and so then just everyone has internet access.
And it's crazy fast, too.
Yeah. And it's probably partly because they thought it was a really good idea, and partly because they don't have companies like throttling everyone's data. How about that? What a good way to go.
Yeah. That's a thing we need here. But like, Trump suggested it not too long ago. He was like, hey, we should build a national 5G network. And people were like, no, not Trump. But we absolutely need it. And the reason Estonia is able to do it, when you think of Europe, it's kind of like the United States of Europe. Like, there are a bunch of small countries that are just on one continent, whereas the United States, we're just states. But we're one big country. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, they actually set something like that up, where they, as a city, were like, look, we don't have good enough internet to attract companies to bring workers here, so we're just going to build our own super fast internet. And they did that, and it was a huge success. And then AT&T stepped in and was like, wait, no, we can't just let communities put up their own internet, because then we won't be able to spread our internet throughout the nation. And they lobbied really hard to keep Chattanooga from being able to expand that network, and they managed to kill that expansion. So we have one little pocket of Estonia type internet in the United States, which is in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and everywhere else it has to be Comcast, Verizon, one of the big companies. You have to let them, if you're building your own internet in your own city or town, you have to let one of those big companies be involved in some way.
Yeah.
God, America sucks.
It really does.
Country. Just we prioritize enriching telecoms over giving internet to everyone.
100% what it is.
Yeah. I feel like of all the things everybody could agree on, we're the most in agreement on everyone wants better internet service all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Adam and I, we went to Kansas City once, and I think they were either starting to get Google Fiber or there was a rumor it was coming.
Yeah.
And everybody was freaking out.
Right.
It was like the greatest thing that had happened to their city.
Yeah, I think they do have it now.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And it, by all accounts, is amazing.
It feels like the kind of thing if you were just like, hey, let's do nationwide Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi provided by the government. That feels like the kind of thing that would pull at like 85%. Yeah. And then and the 15% would be like, 12% would be like not sure. Yeah. And then there'd be like 3% opposed. But the people that actually are opposed are the people in power, because it makes them all their money. Yeah. That fucking sucks.
It would be people in power or people who would be concerned that the government would be spying on us through that internet. And it's like, the government's doing that now.
Yeah,
Take it easy.
For sure.
Well, and as far as the impetus for Estonia putting up Wi-Fi everywhere, apparently they started to really, really push for as much of the country to have good internet as possible after they got to leave the Soviet Union. That famously benevolent country,
right?
And so then I would imagine they had kind of a unifying ideal of we just don't want them to roll in and conquer us again. How can we be as strong and healthy of a country as possible?
Right.
And then they decided to put internet as many places as they could. This article will link a man named Tomas Hendrik Ilves led a campaign to wire schools, and by 1997, 97% of Estonian schools had internet.
It's amazing.
And then from there, they truly have put Wi-Fi hotspots everywhere. Reportedly, you can get Wi-Fi in forests. Like, you'll just look for the network and it works, and it's fine. And they have paperless cabinet meetings now. You can vote on your laptop. You can sign documents with your smartphone. And 94% of tax returns are done online in Estonia because they've just fully wired the country in a way where you're not coughing up money all the time for it, and you can just get it. It's great.
Maybe I'll move back. It feels like maybe that's where my home should be. Just going to immigrate to Estonia.
Oh, no.
Undo what Morton Tew did generations prior.
Friends of yours here come to me like, what did you do?
Yeah, he left. Estonia's just like, oh no, the Wigers are back. We thought we got rid of them. This one sucks. He has a podcast about fast food.
There's looking back at that article with many parents, 5 authors. There's one thing they picked out about celebrity endorsements in multiple countries that all happen to be in Asia. You know, here, I feel like celebrities can just endorse a thing, or Gwyneth Paltrow can just build a website of whatever she'd like, and it just skates on by, you know, no problem. In India in particular, they made a law in 2016 where if a celebrity endorses a product and it's found to be, you know, dangerous, faulty, fraudulent, etc., the celebrity will be summoned to court and have to pay an enormous fine for backing that product. Then there's a similar law in China where if that kind of thing happens, the celebrity gets a 3-year ban on sponsoring anything in China. They just don't get to do it for a while.
Wow. So you're saying if that was the case here, then Ja Rule would right now be doing a hard time for being responsible for the Fire Festival? Be in prison for like 10 years?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Legitimately crazy. No one is, right? No one's doing time for that?
I think.
Oh, no, the founder, I think, went to prison.
I think one rich guy involved is suffering some consequences.
All right.
That feels like, you know, if you get people to stop endorsing shitty products and make sure that, you know, they really like believe in what they're doing in the way that I know George Foreman believes in that grill. Like I believe that he actually is like is passionate about that. I want that degree of endorsement from all my celebrities.
Yeah.
I wonder how far they take it, though. Like, if you're endorsing a car and there's a product recall.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, why did you endorse that car with the faulty seatbelt? Like,
right.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure they don't take it that far.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, yeah, the article describes celebrities starting to like hire people to do due diligence for them. Like, they're still not like, you know, in a laboratory personally or something working on this. But it seems like they have to they have to at least be able to prove that they tried, you know, and either used it a lot or had a flunky of some kind go check it out, you know?
Right, but you'd know, like, if you were watching like some late night cable ad with Frank Thomas for a retired major leaguer for boner medication, some sort of supplement, that male enhancement supplement, you would know that probably works because that guy's putting his his money on the line. That guy might go to prison if this is just a bunch of sand in a capsule.
There's also, we're talking about a lot of laws for humans, you know, that tends to be who they're about. And the country of Bolivia has what's called the Law of Mother Earth. It is Bolivian Law 071, but it's, I don't know how much it's used in practice, but it essentially just gives legal rights to the environment. And they just put that into their legal system.
Huh.
Yeah, which I think is a great idea because this article by Pauly Puiso picks out that it would allow you to use a lot of U.S. Republican-style logic and arguments
Right.
for protecting the environment. As soon
Yeah.
as you make it a person, it can do anything it wants and own guns and so on.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Earth needs a bazooka. Yeah, I'm on board. I mean, like, you know, if Northrop Grumman is a person, then why can't the Earth be a person?
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Yeah. We've ruled in court that corporations have the same rights as people. It tracks that the environment should too. That feels like the exact, like the flip side of that coin. Like it almost should be. It should be that way.
I also like it too because it feels like the kind of thing that would like. It's almost like a preemptive troll of like a Sean Hannity or something like that. That it's almost like you would see like some right wing pundit be like, oh, what's next? Liberals are going to say that the Earth is a person. And just like, yeah, it fucking is. Yeah, deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how often do those guys bring up pretty good ideas?
Right.
Like, how often does that happen when they're making fun of a small idea? It's some of the time.
Is food a human right? Yeah. I mean, I think it should be. I think people should get food.
And then with all these kinds of small laws or big laws, like, how do we get people's minds focused on them for more than a second? You know, like I feel like it's hard to build, especially with just two parties, build a constituency around anything novel or unique, you know? I don't know how we do it.
Isn't so much of it just repeating the same thing? Like, I honestly think like you just get stuff in people's head by just repeating it. Like I feel like you just heard Medicare for all said as Medicare for all so many times over the course of 3 years. And that was almost enough, like that in and of itself, that repetition is almost enough to build a consensus for it. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I do think there's something to just repeatedly putting things in people's brains that they maybe hadn't previously thought about, especially because so many people just don't think about politics all that much because they got better things to do. They got other stuff going on.
True.
So I don't know. I'm a big fan of just repeating something in a memorable way.
Medicare for all is a good example because I think what you need to do and why so many Scandinavian countries are able to like tinker with social programs and try all these new things is they've taken care of the big stuff like healthcare, tuition. So if you're not burdened with healthcare and student loans, then you can start like toying around with other ways to benefit your citizens. Like I think it's Norway tried a version of universal basic income at one point. And they did it for a couple years and then discontinued the program. And people were like, see, they tried it and it didn't work. And no, what it actually is Norway, they have everything else figured out. So they just all the time are experimenting with universal basic income. And well, maybe if we try giving people free money this way, it'll work. And they'll do that for a couple years and then try something else. Yeah. And it came up that one time when they discontinued the program and people seized on that. Like, see, it's never gonna happen. Didn't work there. But no, that's because they've fixed all the other stuff that now they can start looking into things like that.
Yeah. Like they have the bandwidth to experiment.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a little one here, which is that in Barbados and Jamaica, you're not allowed to wear camouflage clothing unless you're actually in a military or some kind of security force or something. And the rationale is you're sort of impersonating an officer if you're wearing camo.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very, very, very small problem to deal with.
Yeah.
But I guess they like have the room, you know, good for them. They're not actively in 3 wars or something. They can just work it out.
Wait, where is this?
Barbados and Jamaica.
Yeah. I guess they're not in any wars.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about their domestic political situations to comment, really. But that does feel like pretty far down the list of priorities.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's a law against a certain kind of shorts, you know?
Right.
Like, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they just outlaw those camouflage San Antonio Spurs uniforms they wear sometimes. Man, those are ugly.
Yeah.
Get a different alt for your jersey.
Yeah. I think pretty much every military-themed sports jersey is a total fucking debacle.
Yeah.
I wish we would just... I feel like
Pretty
we should
aesthetically displeasing.
cut ties between the military and sports.
especially football games, is such just like you've got the color guard coming out for, you've got what representative from each branch of the armed forces, and then you've got to salute to a Navy SEAL at one of the quarter breaks, and then you've got to fly over from the Blue Angels.
Yeah.
There's just like so much military, and there's like money's being exchanged, right? Like, isn't the U.S. military paying the NFL to do this?
They pay them.
So it is kind of crazy that these are just such celebrations of. It's basically like a weekly military parade you're seeing televised.
Yeah.
It's weird.
With things being political, guns. Oh, what a freaky thing, right? But the country of Germany is one where they have a very specific set of gun laws where you are definitely allowed to have a gun, but there's really, really strict licensing and registration. And they also have laws about storing guns and will random inspect your house to make sure you're doing it right. They have the amendment we like to have, but also it's a completely like controlled and regulated thing. And it brought deaths way down. How about that? What an idea.
Imagine. America is so different than every other place when it comes to guns. Like, the best gun law you can have is don't be close to the United States. Because in Mexico, there are very few gun stores in Mexico. It's very hard to get a gun in Mexico. But we traffic illegal guns into Mexico.
Right.
And that's like 90% of Mexico's guns come from the United States. Here, it's going to have to be, we're either going to have to put up with guns or it's going to have to be a mass confiscation kind of thing, because you can enact gun laws. Like the example is always Chicago. People are like, well, why Chicago has the strictest gun laws and they have the most murders. Yeah, but neighboring Indiana has the most lax gun laws, and the guns that get to Chicago come from Indiana. Where there's a comedian who does my podcast all the time named Olivia Haidar, who described driving from Indiana to Illinois pretty perfectly, where Indiana, it's gun store, gun store, gun store, cross the border, cigarette store, cigarette store, cigarette store. And they just kind of, like, if you want cheap cigarettes, you drive into Illinois. If you want cheap guns, you drive into Indiana, and you can get around your respective laws that way. Maybe we need to shut down the borders between states. That's what I like that idea.
Yeah, just expand Lake Michigan south a lot, Yeah.
What are you doing for Christmas? Hoping to go home and see my family. Haven't been there in 25 years. They don't let us leave California anymore.
Folks, that is the episode for this week. My thanks to Adam Tod Brown and Nick Wiger for making me more confident that a more pleasant United States, not perfect, just like a little chiller, it's just a few easy ideas away, and let's make it happen. And in our footnotes, you will find Adam Tod Brown's podcast network, Unpopular Opinion. You'll find Nick Wiger's podcast, Doughboys, and incredible additional dives into everything we talked about today. In particular, I recommend a show called 99% Invisible, because their episode about Taiwanese trash collection was sort of the backbone of that bit of the show. It's a really fascinating way to deal with waste and kind of a national security thing for them. So how about that? You'll also find a footnote about Dutch bicycle licenses, because there are many Cracked articles we're drawing from this week, and one of them involves the system where they let people ride a bike in the first place. It makes drivers also better at knowing what cyclists do, because they probably have bike licenses, they're in their heads. Just a better way to do traffic, folks. It's as easy as, well, it's marginally more paperwork than riding a bike, but it's that easy. And then, of course, there are links in the bottom about live shows we have coming up. I don't know if I've ever been more excited about these. It's really great. And beyond that, the Budos Band provides our theme music. Their song Chicago Falcon brings us in and out. This episode was engineered by Jordan Duffy and edited by Chris Souza. If you love this episode, that's great. If you hated it, let me know about it on social media. That's right. Social media, a space that would theoretically make trading international ideas really, really easy, and somehow we're only getting Russian bots. I don't know. We need more than just that. Like a second international idea would be pretty chill. My own Twitter, full of ideas from all over, is at Alex Schmitty. My Instagram is at Alex Schmitstagram. I'm on the wider internet at my website, alexschmitty.com. Normally, I would say we'll be back next week with a new episode. We are going to do a little bit of a holiday thing. And next week, that would be December 31st. We're actually just going to wish you a Happy New Year and let you know some extra exciting news about the show. And then the following week, we will be back with a new episode of the Cracked Podcast. So that's a programming note for you. Either way, thank you so much for listening, and see you again soon.
This has been an Earwolf production, executive produced by Scott Aukerman, Chris Bannon, and Colin Anderson. For more information and content, visit earwolf.com.
This holiday season, Earwolf wants to spread some cheer. Cheerwolf, if you will.
We've got special episodes all over the network just for you.
Andrew T. and Tawny Newsom talk to Kulop Vilay, I can't pronounce this, about holiday racism on Yo, Is This Racist? That sounds fun.
Unspooled takes a deep dive into AFI's favorite Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
Off Book has not one, not two, not four, but 3 holiday-themed musicals for you to indulge in?
Surprise! All the special holiday episodes with special guests are out from behind the paywall as a gift to you.
You can also check out a very special Improv for Humans episode, Best of the Bible.
On Are You Talkin' R.E.M. Re-Me, the Scots talk about every R.E.M. holiday single released and nothing else.
Sean and Hayes Hit the Slopes with Adam Pally on a very festive episode of Hollywood Handbook.
Beautiful Anonymous, Chris Gethard is taking calls for New Year's resolutions.
Tune in on Earwolf's Facebook page December 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Marissa and Listler get a special listener call-in with a heartfelt proposal on Womp It Up.
Followed by the Christmas Womptacular, released from behind the paywall. And if that's not enough, check out even more special holiday apps from How Did This Get Made, Getting Curious, Who Charted, Threedom, of course, Comedy Bang Bang. Happy holidays, happy listening, and a merry Cheerwolf to all.
So much stuff, so much cheer. Cheerwolf.